Hello, sixth grade. How's it going? Hopefully you're doing well. Today, what we're going to be doing is just reviewing what we've been learning over the past couple of months. Okay? Today, we're going to be going through the information on the diagnostic test that you guys took. Remember, this is not graded, it's just a diagnostic to see how well you were doing. Okay? So, all these topics from March, April, May, and June were reviewed inside of this diagnostic activity, and we're going to take a look at each one of the types of problems. Okay, there were more than 24 different skills that we're going to go through. So we're not going to go through all the questions. We are going to go through a good majority of them. Okay, so let's get started. Remember, this activity was required, and you could have used your book, paper, and pencil, and any other resource, not calculators or anything like that, but just so that I can see if you understood the concept. Okay, here was a link, which is now closed, and here are a couple of the more difficult questions. Okay, what's interesting about this activity is I think I really got an understanding of how difficult some of the questions were, some of the very interesting objectives that were more complicated than others. Here you see, for example, how do you change a decimal to a fraction? Only 2 out of 37 students had responded that correctly. So we definitely need to understand that, or it might have been just a question error, you know. So there were 38 students that responded, which is a little bit less than the total number of students in both 6A and 6B, but that's okay. What we're going to do is just go through a couple of the questions. The majority of the questions were answered by group 6B, and you're going to see a lot of percentages, and this shows you just a little bit of data of how well we understood these concepts. Okay. The first question that we're going to go through is just simple division. 250 divided by 6. Now, the green bar in each one of the questions shows the correct answer. Obviously, the correct answer is marked also with a check, so the correct answer was 41.6. Now, if you just take 240 divided by 6, you can easily come up with 40, correct? So the answer is very similar to a problem that you might have been able to do just inside of your head, okay? All right, what we're going to do is go through the next question. The next question says 63.7 divided by 13. The majority of students got this one correct, and I think it's because they estimated. All right, if we take 60 and we divide that by 10, then it is approximately 6. And the closest number out of any one of those, 2, 5, 13, and 60, is 5. 5 is closer to 6 than any other number. Here we go. Here's another estimation problem with division. 54.28 divided by 20. If you estimated this, you could have came up with 50 divided by 20, which can be simplified as 5 divided by 2, which is 2.5. The closest answer is 2.36. Okay, 23 and 236 don't even come close. Again, a lot of people got this correct. You could have estimated this as 200 divided by 5, which comes out as very close to 40. So the other answers are very much going to lead you in the wrong direction. I'm very proud to see that most students got these questions correct. This is very incredible, boys and girls. I am very impressed by 76% of the students getting these types of questions correct. That's awesome. When we estimate, these problems are a whole lot more simple to understand. This problem was a little bit more difficult. Remember that when you divide by a decimal, it is a little bit more complicated. So if we were to move that decimal point over one spot to the right in both of the problems, we would have came out with 16 divided by 4. Okay, in other words, we're multiplying both numbers by 10. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. This problem was pretty simple, I think. Change 3/4 to a decimal. 84% of the students got this correct, and it is 0.75. All we do is just divide 3 by 4. In other words, we divide the numerator by the denominator. How do you change a decimal to a fraction? Now this was very complicated for most students. Most kids got it incorrect, and I think it was because of the wording of the problem. There were more words, and maybe it was confusing. If you read the decimal out loud, you can figure out which denominator it is. So for example, if I say this decimal as 5/100ths, it's saying the same thing as the fraction, 5/100ths. And I found the denominator very easily just by saying it, okay? So that was probably just a wording question. That's why we got it incorrect. Next question says 3/50ths equals what number? Well, if you see there's lots of examples on the board. For example, 2/5 equals some number over 10. Well, we can multiply both numbers by 2 and get 4/10ths, which is the same as the decimal. So if we look at letter B, 3/50ths equals 6 over what number? Well, again, we could just multiply both numbers by 2, and that would give us 6/100ths. Okay, so your answer should have been 6 over 100, which is displayed right there on the screen. Today I kind of feel like putting background music in the video just to make it a little bit more exciting. Alright, this problem, 1/2 plus 0.3. In other words, 1/2 plus 3/10ths. Well, you need to express your answer as a decimal, so you would change 1/2 to a decimal, which would be 0.5, and 0.5 plus 0.3 is 0.8, which is displayed right there on the screen. 52% of students got that correct. Other ones kind of responded differently. There was a couple of students who just put different decimals in there, 0.5, 0.3, 0.16. Obviously, those are not correct, but the majority of students actually got this correct if you look at all of the data, right? The next problem, 2/5 minus 0.2. In other words, 2/5 minus 2/10ths. You need to express your answer as a fraction, and I see down here there's quite a few other types of answers. There are decimals and percentages and things like that. The largest amount of numbers was 0.2, okay, which is the correct answer. Let's see, 2/5 is the same as 4/10ths, and 4/10ths minus 2/10ths would be 0.2, okay, because 0.2 plus 0.2 is 0.4. Here we have a multiplication number. We need to change that decimal to a fraction, which is 1/2. 2/3 times 1/2 would be, well, 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 2 is 6, so it should have been 2/6, which simplifies as 1/3. So only 15.8% of kids got that correct. And 0.3 was the second most responded answer. 0.3 and 1/3 are pretty much the same. Okay, so if you add those two up, about 30% of the kids got it correct. And then you have another 5% of kids that had 3/10ths as their answer, which unfortunately didn't read the directions properly. It needed to be expressed as a fraction. Okay, so we had about 25% of the kids get this one correct. This one needs to be expressed as a decimal. So we would change 7/10ths to a decimal, which is 0.7, and then we divide that by 0.5. You could move the decimal points over so that you're dividing by a whole number if you wanted to, or you could just divide like that. And our final answer, I believe, was, what did we have? What was that? It was, so let me actually do this one on the screen just to kind of show you how to figure it out. If I could try that, here we go. So 7/10ths, we can change that to 0.7, and then we have that's divided by 0.5. Okay, if we move the decimal point over in both numbers, we would have 7 divided by 5. Okay, 5 can go into 7 one time. All right, and then we're gonna divide to see that. So let's just actually divide that right over here. 5 can go into 7 one time, subtract, bring down my next number, bring my decimal point into my answer, and 5 times 4 is 20. So your answer should have been 1.4, and which is reflected right here in the graph. Okay, 42% of the kids got that correct. That's actually a pretty decent number. Look at this one. same numbers but different decimal point. Okay, and we had some other numbers that were just really off. Okay, but the majority of kids got that one correct. Okay, all right, let's erase that and go to the next problem. This one was relatively simple, I think, for most kids. 68% of you guys got that correct. Make sure you do parentheses first, and then division, and then multiplication, and addition and subtraction. Okay, so you should have done first the subtracting 12 from 14, which is 2, and then 16 divided by 2, which is 8. Okay, 2 times 2, which is 4, and then 8 plus 4, which is 12. So your answer should have been 12, and that was that letter D. Okay. All right, next problem. 68% of you guys got this correct, which is, I don't know about that. I mean, I think we probably should have understood that 3 over 3 is not equal to 3. It's actually equal to 1, so this is false. Okay. 100 over 100 equals 1. That is true. Okay, it's not equal to 100%. It's not equal to another number. It is 1. Any number over itself equals 1. Mr. Joseph said that many, many times during this year. Okay, 2 over 1, is that equal 2? Yes, so 63% of you guys got that correct. Nice job. This next problem, we have 1 over 1 equals what number? Well, we need to know that any number over 1 equals 1, so it should have been 1. 71% of you guys got that correct. Another good portion of people put 5. I'm not really sure. I'm sorry, 2. I'm not really sure why. 13% of you guys responded 2, which is confusing, but okay. We'll work on that maybe. This one was difficult because you had to describe it. Now, here are a couple of possible answers that you guys could have put down. I actually was very proud of a lot of kids from their answers. So, for example, it says, why is 2 3/4 equal to 11/4? Well, first we have to understand that they are reciprocal. They are the same. One of them is a mixed fraction, and one of them is an improper fraction. Okay, we have, for example, because 2 multiplied by 4 is 8, and 3 add 8 equals 11. Okay, I kind of understand the logic behind that response. Because we multiply 2 times 4, which equals 8, plus 3 equals 11. Yeah, there's lots of different answers to get that improper fraction, and we need to make sure that we keep the denominator as the same, right? All right, here's another page. Lots of interesting ways to explain the problem, right? 11/4. Some people actually worked backwards. 11/4 equals 8 over 4 plus 3 over 4. Exactly. Perfect. I totally agree. Okay. Really interesting answers. Okay. Converting a mixed fraction to an improper fraction. Very, very well described. So nice job, boys and girls. I was very proud of your answers for that one. Here we have what is 2/3 divided by 4? Well, 2/3 divided by 4 is the same as 2/3 times 1 over 4, and 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 4 is 12, and when we simplify that, 3 over 12 equals 1/4. Let me just do that just to make sure on the screen. So we have 2/3 times 1 over 4, because we need to make sure we multiply by the reciprocal, right? 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so this actually simplifies to 1/6. That should have been your final answer. 1/6. A lot of people responded 1/6. We had, well, 15% of you guys responded 1/6. I think the majority of the problems that we had incorrect were ones where you had to type in the answer. Okay, so that might have complicated a little bit more, which, you know, it is more complicated. I understand that. Here we have 2 divided by 3/10. Same type of problem. 17 kids got that correct, so 44%. 2 divided by 3/10 is the same as 2 times 10 over 3, just that reciprocal, which equals 20/3, which equals 6 and 2/3. What is 3/4 as a percent? This is a similar problem from before, 75%. We have express the fraction as a percent. Well, 1/2 is equal to 50%, okay? We really need to understand the reciprocity of fractions and percentages and decimals. Okay, so if we have 1/2 that is equal to 50 over 100, which equals 50%, or you can change that to a decimal, 0.5, which is the same as 0.50, okay? Because we're looking at the portion of the number out of the whole number, okay? All right, so far so good, I think. Let's go to the next problem. We have express the fraction as a percentage. This would just be 15%. 78% of you guys got that correct, so congratulations. Next problem was a little bit more difficult. What is 0.54 as a percent? Actually, it was pretty simple. 78% of you guys, almost 79, got it correct. Express 2% as a decimal. It's 0.02. Okay. Please don't get confused by 2 or 0.2. Remember, 0.2 is 2/10 or 20%, not 2%. All right, and then the final, we had a good 58% of kids that liked this, and a very good percentage also, 37% of you guys were very honest and said that you needed to study, okay? A very small percentage said they did not like the quiz. So that's good, I guess. So boys and girls, I really hope that you have a great vacation and that you understood this concept. If you have any questions about any one of the problems, please see Mr. Joseph, and I will be more than happy to explain the problem. So have a great vacation, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.